Hello? Yes, is this Gen Z? Yes. Well, I just wanted to let you know that, you're holding the phone wrong. Oh, and also the credits are rolling.
Netflix is back at it again, doing what they do best. And by doing what they do best, I mean they're taking our childhood and turning it into dark horror and doing fantastic at it because we can't seem to stop watching it. They originally started with Sabrina, or Riverdale, one of the two, and then moved on to the other. And now they've done it with Winx, the live action series. This past week it was in the top 10 on Netflix and remained at number one for quite a few days and may even still be there. But I would have to double check on that. With that being said, my my initial impressions for the show, right, weren't necessarily that high, but that's only because I had never watched the original. I didn't even know entirely that there was an original. Like I knew it was based off something, but I wasn't sure if it was a show or what until Titus told me. So I kind of came in with a clean slate.
The idea of a live action Winx Club seemed like it had a lot of potential. So I was eagerly awaiting the release date on Netflix to see if it lived up to that potential. I was not disappointed. Fate, the Winx Saga, knows its target audience and greatly caters to it. As the standard for Netflix live action remakes, Fate is much darker than its children's cartoon origin, and that's not a bad thing. The first season of Fate only has 6 episodes, so they hit the ground running. We are introduced to the characters early and are given more background info as the show progresses. The main protagonist, Bloom, is also lacking information on her own origin and seeks to uncover the truth about her past. And along the way, she just so happens to uncover much more about the dark past a select few want to remain buried. If you haven't seen Winx in a while, you might be confused at this point that the fairies of this other world don't have wings. Well, I can assure you that this is intentional and canonical. Wings are not biological, they are in fact magical, as part of the magical girl transformation trope that shows like Winx Club helped to popularize. Speaking of magic, we see quite a bit of it in the show, as well as a surprisingly in depth explanation of where it comes from and how it works. Bloom, having lived in the human world up till now, starts off with very little control of her magic and struggles to catch up to the rest of the already proficient student body. This doesn't last long, however, because Bloom has a natural abundance of magical potential and quickly learns how to control her magic. And then, not long after, she becomes a bit more powerful than the rest of her fellow classmates. Althea, where the show takes place, is under attack by a once dormant threat called the Burned Ones. They're a weird zombie werewolf hybrid that transmits through wounds inflicted by a burned one. And this transformation can be prevented by killing the burned one who first inflicted the wound. While the army normally hunts down the burned ones, Bloom and her friends, who are the main characters of the show, become the sole protectors of Althea, as you would expect. While all of this is very intriguing and the show is quite good, it isn't without its faults.
It seems as we discussed this movie, more and more problems came up. And, they seem to stem from beginning to end. Although there were minor ones in the beginning, it was really the big ones that I really want to touch base on. So, in the final episode, we see what we're always complaining about, a villain who just monologuing ends up being defeated. We saw what happens on the flip side of that, with someone dying very rapidly with no warning. And, well, I mean, that's cool, but I can kind of understand why villains monologue. It makes a better story. We were introduced to a lot of different types of magic throughout this show, and Well, one of the things that, we kind of understand is that magic comes from the elements. And then we're introduced to a primordial fire or a descendant flame or something like that that resides within Bloom. And that's all we hear about it. But we can possibly assume that if it comes from a source that deep and that strong, somebody knows who her parents are and they're just not telling her, which means the whole purpose of the first season was forgotten anyway. And we don't really understand a lot of Bloom's motivations. I mean, yes, she wants to get to know her family and she's sick of people lying to her, but she seems a little overly melodramatic, which, of course, it's a teen comedy, but, well, it's not a comedy. It is not a comedy. But it was still a little melodramatic. And even at times, it was repetitive in the melodrama. And I mean, I didn't really necessarily have too much of an issue with that, but it does take a toll on the overall plot of the story if it just keeps returning to poor little old me. I mean, we want to see character development, and we did see some, but I feel like they could have done the whole first season differently, or they could have made it longer. The final episode added more questions about the show than it answered. However, it felt more like a mid-season finale. And that was kind of disappointing because it left us not only wanting more, but needing more in order for us to feel like the series had had a complete finish. Unfortunately, due to the issues that this show has at the current time, we're only able to give it a 6 out of 10. However, Netflix has been known to leave us on extremely large cliffhangers and then deliver in the second season. So if they do well like they did with Sabrina and they did with Riverdale, then I could see this show being moved up overall. However, for season 1, that's a 6 out of 10.
If you've got a movie you want us to review, let us know. Leave a comment, please. Reach out to us through social media. And if you're really generous, check us out on Patreon, where you can guarantee that we will review your movie. All the links can be found in the link tree in the description of this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, and we will see you the next time the credits roll.